You're watching TVC Breakfast, and today is Democracy Day. We're looking at various things that make up the democracy that we practice. But just moments ago, the president gave his Democracy Day speech to Nigerians and friends of Nigeria, and as a way of inspiring Nigerians towards where we're going as a people. I have in the studio Samo Mashaye as well as Ayodele Adewale. They've been helping us make sense of what the president has said and some of the deep meanings of the significance of what the president has said and how he has said what he has said. Now, we will dissect the speech of the president, some of the things that he has said, but I had asked earlier for that you give us an idea of what role the media played and what role civil society played in achieving the democracy that we are practicing and enjoying today.
It was a very interesting time after the election was annulled. I remember at that time I was the managing editor of the Concord newspaper, Abiola's newspaper in Abuja. And when the results came out, it was many people were getting excited about it, and there was even a picture, a video of TV clip of Abiola saying that I'm going to appoint the best brains in Nigeria. I recall that very vividly. Then I was in the office one morning, and my State House correspondent at that time, Adamu, was on the show one time, Mohammed Adamu, came up with a statement, a sheet of paper. The paper was unsigned. There was no logo on that paper. That was a statement from Aso Rock at that time, from Babangida's people. And I said, "What is this?" He said, "That was what they gave us." And I held the paper and I read it, saying that they had annulled the election, but they use very serpentine language, very prose of rigmarole. But what it meant was that they are disturbed it. I remember the discomfort of my editor-in-chief that time, Dr. Mrs. Abiola, because I called the editor, who was that time, Sikake. I read it to him, and he said, "You need to call the MD and tell her what happened." So I called her that morning, and I told her, and I read the whole thing to her. I said, "This is what has happened." And she was so livid, almost as if I was the one that annulled the election. I remember that morning. She was upset, as if I was the one that annulled the election. So gradually, society started to respond to it. Before you knew it, Lagos was on fire. There was big riot in Lagos. People were saying, on June 12, we stand. That was when you started having different organizations. Civil Liberties Organization, CLO led by Olisa Agbakoba. You had a Committee for Defense of Human Rights led by, I was secretary at one time before I moved out of town, led by Beko Ransome-Kuti. Then you had senators, people in the House who were, one of the people that was a great source of news to me was challenging the military at that time. Guess who? Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu was the senator. I always recall him in the front of Hilton at that time. He always had something to say, and I was all ready to take script and report it at the Congress. At that time, we didn't know what it was going to blossom into, because on a personal level, I was also being hunted by the SSS. I didn't know. There was one day I was with Olu Akerele, who was an aide. I took over from him in Concord in Abuja. And he was working directly now with Abiola. So he called me one day and said, "Sam, you're just moving around town looking excited. But there are two vehicles that have been trailing you. One Jetta and one 505. He said, "Be careful. They are following you anywhere you go in town." I didn't know he was saying something serious, but I said, "Let me watch out." I discovered that immediately I entered my car, there was one at the other compound was a Jetta. As I started my car, he started his car too.
So he started monitoring the
So he started
monitor.
monitoring me. And that time I didn't even have accommodation. I just moved into Abuja, and I was living with, I was staying with a friend of mine, Mariah Okinedo, and his wife. And we went one evening to go and just to cool off. And as we were driving home, as we just entered the compound, the wife, women they have intuition. She said, that 505 has been following us since I saw the car. I didn't want them to know that I knew what was going on. She's hearing me now. So this man knew this. The car just zipped past as we just entered the compound. And he said, that car has been following us from the hotel. It has been following us since. I said, really? So that was it.
You had an idea.
That's the idea. So, organizations started to form. Then there was a popular phrase, on June 12 we stand. Many people were gung-ho about it. Then the media was very strong. When the media became flowery and very aggressive, including the Concord, of course, the Concord Abiola's paper, so we stood against the government. Then we had magazines, which were very strong too. The News, you had the News, and then you had Tell magazine. Then you had some magazine, newspapers, different mushrooming of all kinds of publications in the country who were just dedicated to it. There was one that I can't remember.
Tempo.
But
Tempo.
No, Tempo was still was after Tempo came in to replace the News as a file because they had banned the News, and Tempo was a kind of
Newswatch. There was Tell.
There was Newswatch, there was Tell, but not Newswatch was kind of had played this role in the Nigerian history, kind of had gone down. So it was Tell and News and the News. They had different kinds of news. There was one guy, I can't remember it now. I remember his headline of the news: How Nigeria Will Disintegrate, Part 1. That was the headline. So it was
we're still here.
Well, we're still here. It was really a fierce thing. People were writing very powerful essays. People like Adebayo Williams were writing powerful essays in the news and so on. So organizations were moving. So then we had campaign for democracy. Then we started having a situation where there were strikes. Then we had Pengassan. You see Kokori today. Frank Kokori was one of the stormy petrels of that time. They were looking for him all over the place. The military, they couldn't find him because he shut down the oil industry. And when you shut down the oil, you shut down Nigeria.
You shut down the country.
And then the governance, the military didn't know what to do with anybody because you couldn't find the journalists who were coming out with, because they banned all the newspapers, banned all the magazines. You couldn't find out the journalists who were coming out. They couldn't find Bayo Nonuga, Femi Ojudu, Dakwolon Yomi, and all of them. They couldn't find them, but they were coming out publications every day and
made a mystery
destroyed them. Because they became mystery men. And Nosai Gebo for Tell and so on. That's what they did. The thing was going on. There were also journalists. Even a man like Alex Kaba. Alex Kaba, who was writing very, very, very destructive pieces against the military at that time. They were going after them. And Alex Kaba, there was one day I was in this day. This day was formed in the aftermath of all of this thing. I saw him one. I said, Alex, he said, you wonder, you don't know that there's a spy. Because he was hiding in the US Embassy before he left the country. So all these organizations were moving on before, after a while, the military started browbeating some people, and some people started saying, some people started compromising some traditional rulers, some politicians, and so on. It was a very tempestuous time.
Well, it's good you took us back memory lane for us to understand all of the things that happened that time, even those who had to become defiant to the government as a way of sending their message to the government at that time. But here we are with the democracy now, courtesy of all of that struggle and all of that together. Now, Adewale, let me read one part that the president said: "On my part and that of my administration, I pledge anew our commitment to diligently fulfilling every component of our electoral pact with the people, the Renewed Hope Agenda. Now, that Renewed Hope Agenda, which is the manifesto of the president, has a whole lot of things in there which Nigerians may not even have really studied when it comes to the details of it. But with the statement like this, which is trying to resonate his manifestos to the people, what kind of hope is this giving to Nigerians?
It's an assured hope. If you look at the president's speech, from my understanding, I can break it into three parts. The first part was the history of the struggle in Nigeria and how we find ourselves where we are. The second part is to analyze what is going on and what his intervention would be. The third part is what you have just talked about, the elements in his manifesto on how to transform Nigeria to a new dawn where everybody, as long as you have something to add on to, you develop according to your strength, according to your knowledge, and according to the opportunities in the environment. He talked more on the environment. He talked on how he's going to plow funds from the subsidy to education, to infrastructure, and all whatnot. He was not able to put all of those content you have there because of time. So he paraphrased it that everything will become better. And he also appealed for calm from the people to support his administration. I can assure you that within the next 100 days of governance by the Asiwaju, President Tinubu's administration, a lot of policies have already started, being reinvented. Some of it have been removed. And these are chokes in the necks of the Nigerian economy and then the Nigerian people. So when these yoke and chokes are taken off, there is a breath of fresh air, and people can now rethink. I'll give you a similar example. About 2 days ago, I just changed my generator carburetor from petrol to gas. I saw it on social media. And as a scientist, I read science in school and all of that. I started studying, doing research, and I had to call one of the leading generator assembly companies here in Lagos. And of course, with goodwill, I have interaction with some of their engineers. And they said, well, it's possible. So I said, okay, cool. I called my electrician. He said, it's possible. I said, what about the safety part of it? He said, yeah, we can design something. So we designed it. And I look at the economy of it. A 50 liter now costs about 24,000 naira. To top up your 50 kg or thereabout is about 9,000. So I now asked, how long will I use this? And they equated it like for 5 hours for the 50 kg, you can use it for like 3 weeks. But mind you, my generator will consume 50 liters in 1 day and a half. So when I put it to mathematics, I will be saving about 262,000 in 3 weeks, and I'll burn just 9,000 naira. So these are part of ingenuity that we are plugging in to our knowledge and what have you. Now these funds, like he has said, will go into education. And when you invest in education, you are investing in human capital. No matter the resource that you have in the country, if you don't have the human capital to turn it around, it becomes a nullity to you. So these are things that he has put there. And the way he spoke, he didn't speak like I'm reading a text to you. He spoke more from the mind. So if you look at the body language, you look at the text, the diction, and his eyes on how he was talking to his people, it is demonstrating to you that, one, I am your leader. I'm also feeling your pain. Either you like it or not, people reach out to him for support. So in giving out support, he feels their pain. But the end point is, by the time he finishes 1 year to 4 years, many of these things will become history. Okay. The naysayers will now have to come and align and apologize, and we have a new Nigeria that we are all building towards.
All right, a new Nigeria. That's a hope everyone's looking forward to. Now, the president talked about the issue of reforms, and in one of the lines he said the reforms have just started. Now, if you see the electricity bill he signed into law, and even the extension of the years of retirement for judges, and so on, it tells you that he's putting the building blocks, the foundations of some of the kind of reforms that Nigerians are looking for. Even the subsidy removal that he mentioned on the first day that he was taking over are all part of it. Now, what do you see going forward?
You know, he said something there. He said, poverty, I don't get the way he said it. He said, poverty is not divine. It's not divinely given. I know that some people think that because Jesus Christ said that the poor will always be with us.
Exactly.
It doesn't mean that I will make the poor always with you. He didn't say, I will always make the poor. He said the poor will always be with us. It is our duty to not do that because the same Bible says that the blessing of the Lord maketh rich.
Make it rich, exactly. I didn't know sorrow.
So your concept of fighting for democracy is not an abstract thing. It's supposed to be experienced in the welfare, and mentioned the idea of welfare and the welfare of the people. He used the expression that you also re-echoed. It is, I feel your pain. That is actually a statement from Bill Clinton when he was running for president. It is what I feel your pain. It became a resonant phrase for the campaign, for his electoral campaign. So this speech is also taken from there. And you can see that in the speeches is showing a lot of resonance from quotes and statements from great men. The other time it took from Lincoln, with malice towards none, with charity for all, as God gives us the chance to see the light, and things like that. So what he's trying to do is to bind our wounds. That's what he's saying. There's another Lincolnian expression, but he didn't use that. But it was the same speech, to bind our wounds. And what that means is that you don't only fight for freedom. When you get the freedom, what are you going to do?
What do you do?
Well, now that we found law, what are we going to do with it? I mean, it's not. So that's what he's saying. Yeah. That now when we have this, there are so many things to do. People have to get jobs. They have to think of infrastructure. We have to think of education, as he has said. And then we have to guard the whole concept of democracy. He said it. And that's the basis of it. You have to guard the whole concept of democracy. That's the whole idea of June 12. It said some people, he made a point referring to those naysayers, the expression he used, naysayers, who are still saying that, the election was rigged and so on. He made a point there, he said, June 12th was the first and fairest election up to that time. In other words, this one was fair. He made that point. And it's saying that we have to guard this, and we have to take democracy with all its warts and all. Democracy may not be the best form of popular persuasion, but it's the best we have. I don't want to quote Winston Churchill, who said after he lost the election and so on, they asked him how to define democracy. He said, democracy is the worst form of government, except for the other ones that we have tried. Which means that, we can't, we have to, it is the best. It's the best that human beings have been able to devise. Yes. And so we have to make the best of it. And even what we have in the world is not really democracy. What we have are republics. Because if we have to talk about democracy, we have to go to even the time of the Greeks, where you have assemblies of thousands and thousands of people. And they're even led by generals. They're led by generals. Yeah. The leaders are generals. So it's kind of a democratic military kind of establishment and so on. But everybody has a voice. Everybody can remember the Babel. But even then, people have said, people like this woman, Anna Arendt, I said even that cannot be democracy, because there will always be stronger people who will say, I'm representing everybody and suppress other people. And so we can never have what we want. But he has put it very clear that, this is what we need to do. We have to free resources. We have to make the democracy worthwhile to the people. And all the naysayers, he says one thing, say those who cannot accept victory, take defeat in election, they don't deserve to get victory. We have to accept it when we lose and enjoy it when we win.
Okay. Now, standing on what Sam has said, he said we must guard our democracy we must not take our democracy for granted. We must guard our democracy jealously. Now, democracy, a lot of persons may not, especially the new generation of young people who feel, okay, democracy is just about the right to express yourself. Of course, everybody has the right to express yourself, but there are certain limitations to the kind of rights that you express yourself, because if you express yourself exactly the way it is in your mind, and the other person does the same, and the other person does the same, there's going to be chaos in the entire society. But talk to us from that window. Recall I asked a question earlier as to what people have contributed. People have suffered, people have died, people have sacrificed a lot, lost everything, lost people to give us the democracy we have. Now, if you meet the young person on the street today, you ask them things about this. Some people are very quick to say, okay, I know that, let everybody go their separate ways. Let everybody, not understanding that there has to be some sacrifice continually. Now, what lessons do the young people of now have to learn from the issue of guarding our democracy jealously?
Well, to guard democracy jealously, you also need to guard your emotion. Democracy is a platform and is a system. And to make people understand very well what I'm about to say, I will equate it to a boxing ring where you have two boxers, competing, not fighting right now, on points. The boxer that fights on emotion will definitely lose that bout. The one that fights with calculation, well organized, and aiming towards a purpose will always win points. So in democracy, no matter what your idea is, you must understand that it's about people. Even if your opinion is superior, it's about people, it's not about you. So how do you sell your superior opinion or your superior knowledge for others to accept it? That is when you must be very tolerant and you must be very calculative. And that is why people of higher climes have seen that discussions is very important. Like Uncle Sam said, even in the old Greek and all of that, regardless of their numbers. Like while I was in school, there was somebody coming from Libya then to teach us about the Jamarian theory. And he taught us how Gaddafi used that as a minute form, of a democratic system. But in that system, people are met in hot talking this and that. It's about talking, right? So the younger people must learn to talk, to engage, and to organize themselves and to sell their ideas. The more you have numbers on your side, the more you can sell your idea, just like every commodity. You understand? If you want to get wealthier, you must be able to brand your idea, sell your idea, and build on that strength. Yes, you can agitate. Yes, you can vent. But your venting must not cross that red line to the extent that you hit someone or you destroy the environment in which you want to govern. That is why Shaju said in his speech that people can go to court. And when you go to court, remember you have taken your right, your sovereignty, and you have surrendered it for the rule of law. There's an arbiter that will look at it, and he must work in confinement with the rules that have empowered him. So everybody goes there. Your lawyers do your presentation. We sit, you bring the facts. These are onions that help to garnish democracy. Not that you just come and throw red pepper on somebody's eyes and you think they will not react. By the time you burn the whole place.
Exactly. Then what becomes of what we all own? All right. We have to round off somehow, but Sam, let me give you just 30 seconds. What's the take-home of the lessons we have to learn today as a whole, especially with the president setting the tone of what our democracy, what we should reflect on a day like this?
Yes, I think the gist of it is that we should not take democracy for granted. We fought for it, we've cooked it. Don't spill it after you have cooked. That's what he's saying. Don't take this opportunity for granted. That's what he said. As the Russian writer said, the only people who deserve freedom are those who are ready to fight for it every day.
Right. Thank you so much, Samo Masheye and Idelia Dewale. Thank you so much for your insight into the ideas of democracy and especially what the president has said about democracy and where he's taking us to on this journey. Thank you very much. Right.